Hello guys, in this video I'm going to show you how to install macOS Monterey on any Windows laptop or desktop from scratch. Now here are the requirements. First, we need a 16 gig flash drive or more. If you have more than that, it is actually okay. Second, we need balenaEtcher, and that is what we are going to use to create a bootable flash drive. Thirdly, we need MiniTool partition wizard. Fourthly, we need Explorer++. We also need macOS Monterey installer image file. We need GenSMBIOS, which is what we are going to use to generate a unique key for our macOS machine. And we also need EFI configuration file based on our CPU. Now we need to check the CPU of our machine to know the right EFI we need to download. And to do that, open your task manager by holding Ctrl+Shift+Escape. Now go to performance and then click on your CPU. By the right, you can see over here Intel Core i5 4570 CPU. Now this means this is a 4th generation CPU starting with 4. Make sure to confirm your CPU and the code name associated with it so you can download the right EFI file. So you can see this is Monterey ISO file. This is our EFI file based on my PC, which is 4th generation, and that is Haswell. This is GenSMBIOS. This is balenaEtcher. This is MiniTool partition wizard, and this is Explorer++. The link to each and every one of these files is provided in the video description so you can download yourself. First, we have to create a bootable flash drive. So let's open balenaEtcher and then install. Next, connect your pen drive. You can see over here, this is our pen drive which is selected. This is 16 GB and that is okay. So make sure it is selected and then click on flash from file over here. Now we have to select the image file for Monterey, which is here. You can see 14.6 GB. Make sure it is selected, open, and then click on flash. Now we can close balenaEtcher. Now after creating a bootable drive with our pen drive, let's head back to our folder again, download folder, and then install MiniTool partition wizard. We are going with free trial, just continue with free trial. Untick every other thing. Now click on finish to launch. Okay, so if you look down here, you can see disk 3 with the label GPT, which is a removable pen drive, and that is our bootable disk. And you can see a partition over here called EFI, which is FAT32. Now right click on this partition called EFI and then click on change letter. So we have to specify a letter for this drive so we can easily recognize it and access it. So change letter and then give it any letter you want. I'm just going to give it something X, okay? Click on OK and then come down here, click on apply. Yes. And then click on OK. Now we can close MiniTool partition wizard. Next, let's head to our download folder again and then extract our EFI file. So I'm just going to right click and then extract files. I'm going to use WinRAR to extract the file. So we no longer need MiniTool partition wizard. We no longer need balenaEtcher, and we can delete this as well. Now we have to extract GenSMBIOS as well. Okay, so after extracting GenSMBIOS and our EFI OpenCore, we can open the SMBIOS, open it, and then run this called GenSMBIOS, which is a Windows batch file. So let's double click on it. Now make sure you are connected to the internet for this to work. So the first thing we have to do is install and update Mac serial. So let's enter 1 and then hit enter. So it's going to download a few packages and this needs network. And that is done. Now the second thing is to select our EFI configuration file. So enter 2 and then hit enter. Now we have to drag and drop our configuration plist file. So let's head back to our download folder. Open your EFI folder. EFI. Go to OC. and then you can see a file over here called config. Now drag this file called config over here and drop it, and then hit enter. Now the file is selected. We can now generate SMBIOS. So enter 3 and then hit enter. Now type in the SMBIOS we want to generate. Now in this case I am using iMac Pro 1,1. You can also use the same machine, iMac Pro 1,1, and that works for Monterey. Hit enter, and you can see the serial has been generated. Now we can hit enter to return. Next we also have to generate the UID, so enter 4 and then hit enter. Generated as well. Hit enter to return. Now we can quit this program, enter Q there and then hit enter. And we are done with GenSMBIOS. We've successfully generated SMBIOS for our Hackintosh. So we can head back to our download folder. We can delete GenSMBIOS. Now we have to copy this EFI file to the EFI directory on our pen drive, and that is where we need Explorer++. So let's extract Explorer++. And then we can open the folder. Right here you can see Explorer++. Right click and then run as administrator. Okay, so here we are. Now locate our downloaded EFI file. So I'm just going to go to this PC and then my download folder, which has my EFI OpenCore file. So I'm going to open it and then I'm going to copy EFI folder. Copy it. Copy. Now let's go back to this PC. And then you can see our drive called EFI with the letter X, which we specified earlier. So this is our EFI partition on our flash drive. So let's open it. Delete everything here. And then let's paste our new EFI file we copied. Paste. And we are good with that. Now we can close Explorer++ and we no longer need that as well. Now we can begin booting into macOS Monterey and start the installation, but before we do that, we have to check the drive we want to install macOS Monterey. So head to your search bar and then search for disk partition. And you can see create and format hard disk partition over here. So let's open that. So this is disk management. Now you can see the list of drives on my PC. Disk 1 is my SSD with 223 GB, which is what I'm currently using. Disk 0 is my HDD with 232 GB, which is another of my drive. Now you need to choose where you want to install macOS. Now I would recommend you back up your files before you install macOS. But if you have two different drives, you can install macOS on one of your drives and then continue using Windows on the other of your drive. But in this case, I want to partition my SSD over here so Windows can be running and macOS can be running as well. So I'm going to right click on the drive I want to partition and then click on shrink volume. And then set the amount of space I want to shrink. Now, if I open my File Explorer, you can see my SSD drive has 223 gig and I have 158 gig of free storage, which I'm going to allocate 100 gigabytes. Now anything over 50 gigabytes should be okay for macOS, but for it to work properly, you have to allocate enough storage. So I'm going to allocate 100 gigabytes, which is 100,000 megabytes, and then shrink. So you can see over here 97.66 gigabytes unallocated. Now we can just right click and then click on new simple volume. Next, next, assign a letter, let's just call it M. Next, give it a name, let's just call this macOS so we can easily identify it. And then click on next, finish. So it is going to perform a quick erase. Now we are ready to start installing macOS. So let's close disk management and then restart into our BIOS. Hold F9 or F12 to boot into your setup. It may be different depending on the PC you use. Now scroll down to BIOS setup and then hit enter. Now we have to scroll down to system configurations and then go to SATA operations. Now switch from RAID to AHCI. Yes. After that, we also have to turn off secure boot, so disable secure boot. Yes. And then click on apply to apply the changes we've made and then exit. Now hold F12 or F9 to boot back into the setup page and then select your USB from the list of options here, which is UEFI vendor core product code. So that is a USB. Hit enter. First we have to reset NVRAM, so select reset NVRAM and it should reboot. Hold F9 or F12 again, and this time you see a new option called OpenCore, so hit enter to boot with OpenCore this time, and we can start the installation. Hit enter. Now let's start the setup. Set a language for the installation and continue. Select this utility and then continue. Now you can see our SSD, macOS and HDD. So the drive which we are going to install macOS on is our macOS drive, which we allocated earlier. So let's select macOS and then we have to erase this drive. So click on erase and then set the format to APFS. That is the format which macOS uses. Then let's erase. Successfully erased. We can click on done and then we can close this window and then start the installation. This time select install macOS Monterey and then continue. Accept the terms and continue as well. Now select our drive macOS which we erased just now and then continue, and it should start installing. Now along this process it may restart severally, but you just have to let it install. This may take about an hour or even longer depending on your PC build. Now we can begin the setup. So select your country or region and then continue. Continue with this. Not now, accessibility. Continue with data and privacy. Not now, we don't want to migrate any data. You can sign in with your Apple ID. This will work perfectly. So I will click on setup later since I don't really need to do that now. Accept the terms and conditions. Agree. Now create your user account with your name and password and then continue. Continue with location. I don't really want to enable location services right now, so I'm just gonna go with don't use. Now select your time zone by clicking on your region. So just click on the exact region and then continue. Continue with analytics. Set up later for screen time. And then you can continue with Siri. And then choose a language for Siri. Select a voice. I'm just going to click on choose for me. Now I'm going to select not now. Continue. And then choose your team. I'm going to go with the dark mode since I actually prefer that. Now you can change this whenever you want, so nothing to be worried about. And here we go. We now have macOS Monterey installed on our Windows machine. Now wait, we are not done yet. Our EFI file is in our USB drive and we have to remove the USB drive. So to do that, we have to copy our EFI file to our EFI partition so we can boot without our USB drive. First, we need ESP Mounter Pro and we also need our EFI file. The EFI file is the same with the one we use for the installation, but we just have to install the ESP Mounter Pro. The link will be provided in the video description. Now, if we try to install ESP Mounter Pro, we are going to get an error. That means the program is not recognized. So open our system preferences and then go to security and privacy, and you're going to see a prompt over there which says allow anyway, and this is going to allow ESP Mounter Pro to run. We can run ESP Mounter Pro by typing our password and then install. And ESP Mounter Pro has been successfully installed. Now if you look at the top right corner of your screen where the arrow is pointed, you will see an icon for ESP Mounter Pro. So click on it and then click on show all disk. This is going to show all the disks on this PC. Now if you scroll down, you will be able to find EFI partition for your drive. Now there are lots of drives showing here on my end due to the fact that I have lots of drives on my PC, but in your case it shouldn't be showing this much. And you can see EFI system partition right there. Now click on mount and then click on open volume. So now all we have to do is delete the current EFI file in the partition, open our EFI file which we used earlier, and then paste it there. But in my case, I'm not going to do that since I also have Windows running which is making use of the EFI. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open the EFI folder and then I'm going to create a new folder. I'm just going to call it EFI 2. And then I'm going to copy the files from my EFI folder, paste it there, and I can use this to boot. But if I'm doing this, I have to change my boot settings as well. But in your case, you don't have to do this. You just have to delete the EFI folder and then paste our EFI folder we modified there. Now let's restart our PC and then remove the USB drive and then boot into our setup. Now I'm going to go to my BIOS setup and then go to boot sequence, add a new boot sequence, and then select the file EFI2 OC Opencore.EFI. OK, and let's call this macOS. Click on OK and then exit. Now I'm doing this due to the fact that I modified the EFI folder instead of copying and pasting it direct. So you don't have to do this, you just have to boot directly and you're good. Now I can just select macOS from my boot options and here we go. You now have access to your machine. Log in with your password and that's all. You can customize the machine, log in with your Apple ID and do whatever you want to do. If this video was helpful, kindly hit the subscribe button and turn on your post notification. Thank you for watching and I will see you on the next one.